Afternoon, everyone. I'm Shresi Pal. I'm Associate Professor at the BMS School of Architecture, Yelahanka, Bangalore. We are proud to be a NAC accredited and NIRF ranked independent architectural college under the esteemed BMS Educational Trust. Today's session is the 14th webinar of our research orientation series. It is an initiative aimed at nurturing a robust research culture within the architecture and allied academic communities. These seminars are designed to foster knowledge exchange and collaborative learning, and we are delighted to have participants from across India joining us today. Your enthusiastic engagement is what drives the success of this series, and we encourage you to actively participate throughout the session. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Shaila Bantanur, the Director of BMSSA. She holds a doctoral degree from the prestigious IIT Roorkee and has over 20 years of experience as a researcher, academician, and practitioner. Dr. Bantanur has contributed significantly to research with publications in national and international journals and is currently leading two international collaborations with the University of Notre Dame, USA, and Kathmandu University, Nepal. She is a coordinator of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and has been part of the scientific committees for prestigious conferences like CEMEC. Dr. Bantanur has received several awards, including the Intac UK Scholarship Award, the Intact Merit Award, and the TU Dresden Travel Fellowship. An active member of Doctoral Advisory Committee of Manipal University, the Faculty Advisory Committee for other renowned institutions, and also the member of Board of Studies, Local Inquiry Committee of Vishwesvaraya Technological University. Her leadership has earned BMSSA NAC accreditation and NRF ranking. She actively promotes industry academia collaborations through initiatives like the Research Dialogue Series, Knowledge Series, and the new Heritage Insight Series. I now invite Dr. Bantanur to share with us insights from a doctoral journey in IIT Roorkee on the topic Sustainability Assessment of Higher Education of Residential Campuses. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Shresi. First, let me now share the screen. Sorry. Yeah, I hope it is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And as Shresi rightly mentioned, as a School of Architecture, BMS, we generally have these monthly series, which is the Research Dialogue Series and Heritage Insights. Apart from that, in-house, we have a Design Dialogue Series as well. So I am really thankful to my all team members for initiating such dialogue series at our school. And especially the Research Dialogue Series is online, and Heritage Insight is also an online series. And we do see to it every session we have a lot of different approaches, especially in the Research Dialogue Series, a lot of tools which are used, different methods. So we highlight on those aspects. Now, this session, when we were discussing about the speaker as well as the topic, so I was excited. I thought, okay, let me now share my experience of the PhD in IIT Roorkee as a full-time research scholar. It's about how the journey it goes. In fact, the topic says about PhD journey, and the journey is long, but I try to compile it, or maybe in a 1 hour. It's very, very difficult for me to share all the insights, but definitely I try my level best to see to it that you will get more insights from my journey. So this is the first slide. Most of the slides which I'm going to share here is my defense itself, because since I'm talking about the journey, I want to include all right from the day one to the end of the content of the research. So the topic is about sustainability assessment of higher educational residential campus. I'm audible, Shreyasi?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the topic is sustainability assessment of higher educational residential campus. I request all the participants uh, just to highlight more on the kind of a journey or the methods which are used, not about the kind of a results and all that. So what is more important whenever you enroll for the research? Most of the time we need to be very clear about the journey. We need to be very clear about the methods which we are going to use it. So I want you people to focus on the content based on the presentation. So the topic started with the sustainability assessment, but before going to the enrollment, before going for the full-time research scholar, I was thinking on the other topic, like I was thinking about the earthquake resistance, disaster mitigation areas, and all that. But the moment after the enrollment, when I started discussing about my guide and all that, so then they have suggested this is a very niche area where you really need to talk about and focus more on the higher educational campuses and then also the sustainability assessment. So this is how the journey started with the topic, though this topic what I'm talking about was not the fine what the same topic at the beginning, but again it evolved over the time. But if you see the title, whenever you take any of the research topic, the title has to be very clear and it should narrate the story, or it should say the content, what is that you're going to talk about. So here I want to mention about this, like sustainability assessment. The topic is very simple, very straightforward, where I'm going to talk about the sustainability assessment of sustainability. That is the one aspect. And I am going to highlight on higher educational residential campuses. So that means the whole journey is talking about residential campuses of higher education and where the sustainability assessment is made. So this is where it gives a very clarity about what is the topic is all about. So the topic is very important. And the second one here, you can see the journey, which is 2011 to 15. So now it's almost 2025, so almost 10 years. I just need to recollect all those memories, and then I try to explain couple of few interesting memories during this journey. But I enrolled here as a full-time scholar in 2011 to 15, almost 4 years full-time, or I can say 3.5 years full-time, and submitted the first draft and then converted into part-time when I got a job in SPA Vijayawada. So this is how the journey, and the guides were Dr. Mahua Mukherjee and Professor R. Shankar. So I had two guides. Okay, now this is the overall content, where this is a very sequence. It's a very regular sequence whenever you present your synopsis in your PhD. That is the introduction, relevance of the study, aims and objectives, scope and limitation, methodology chart, literature review, approach for analysis, introduction to study area, results and discussion, and proposed whatever you are going to propose in your research, and then the conclusion. And a couple of, again, the journey always starts with the campus sustainability or the introduction of the topic. So here, the interesting thing was, as a full-time research scholar, we were supposed to take the coursework, and we need to complete the credit of 12 credit before going for your initial proposal of your research topic. So the best part of what in my journey was, I was taking I have taken two of the subjects from the alternate hydroelectric department in IIT Roorkee. But apart from that, I have taken the seminar as well as the self-study. The self-study is something where I framed the syllabus for the literature review, which really helped me a lot. Because in the proposal goes in almost 1.5 years of your registration. So I wanted to know very clear about what is that I'm going to do it. And for that, this this coursework helped me a lot. So I have taken course self-study. In this, I framed myself the syllabus, and then based on the syllabus, I have taken all the the content, literature review, and then after that, I was supposed to write an examination. So during that process, so immediately after the registration itself, I started my literature review, which is very, very important for each and every researcher. The clarity about the topic, the clarity about the what is that you're going to do, what is the methods may be on the later stage, but what is that you're going to do and how is that you're going to do is very important, which should help you if you do it in detail literature review. So this is a basic definition through a lot of literature review I could get. And the moment we talk about the campus sustainability, most of the earlier since I did my literature review in 2011, so most of the reference materials are older here, but still almost around 15 years back, I have compiled most of the literature. So here, most of the campuses, or the most of the, whenever we talk about the higher educational campuses, they were talking about sustainability in four different ways. That is education and research, environment or operations, economic, and the social. So in terms of including or the integrating sustainability into education and the research, including sustainability into the environment or the operation part, the operation means that is a conducting or the handling these many parameters and practicing those things in the campus, and economic, and then the social sustainability. So being an architecture background and urban design and planning and environment, a little bit of knowledge about it. So we thought let us focus only on the operational sustainability. So when we talk about operational sustainability, these were the parameters which I could get it from the literature. And one very justification needed is why are you going, what is the need of this work? The reason behind is the most of the universities are autonomous in nature. Then they are residential campuses. Basically, my focus, the study was focused on the only residential campuses. So a lot of these residential campuses I could get in the details. Then they act like a living laboratory. The reason is the residential institutions, whatever you practice, it's not only like you're teaching and you're practicing, but also the same kind of a practice can be taken away to the neighborhood as well, and then the society, the same set of learnings can be taken over there. So that is the main reason why we felt that this research is important for the higher educational. And they act like an industry. You just see the you just introduce things that can be practiced in the society as well. Then the objectives. In any of the research, objectives plays a very important role. It gives you a very clear direction. If you do the literature review properly, then you can really come out with the clear cut objectives. Most of the time when I attend a lot of PhD reviews and the juries, I could find that the objectives are not very clear, and that leads to a lot of confusion. Even sometimes the people do spend a lot of even 5 years, 6 years, and 7 years of journey, but still, because of objectives are not clear, the journey is not very clear, and then it doesn't help them out. So, for example, most of the time in research, we generally take 4 to 5 maximum, but the sixth objective was added in my case because the kind of a work which was discussed and which was presented in front of my guide. So they have suggested, since you have done so much of work, why don't you even introduce or propose the assessment tool as well? So this was the last edition after the third year of my research. But otherwise, I had only these 5 objectives. Now here, if you see the objectives, most of the time, the first objective is always to understand the concept. So that means to establish the concept of operational sustainability. Then the second onwards, it should come about the analysis of the data which you have collected during the literature review. And so maybe the second and the third, you can focus more on the analyzing of the data which you have collected through the literature review, or also you can take some of the study area and you can implement that. So those kind of things, you can take it as either second or the third objective of your research. Then in my objectives in the research is, first one is to establish the concept of operational sustainability of higher educational residential campuses in terms of components, principles, parameters, and the objectives. The second objective was to develop an approach for analysis of operational sustainability of higher educational residential campuses. To analyze the current practices was the third objective. Also to analyze the stakeholders' perception on sustainability parameters. And then the fourth one, to propose sustainability model suitable for higher educational, that is Indian residential campuses. And the fourth one, which I said, it was added, that is to evolve a set of suitable sustainability indicators, assessment tool, and the benchmarks for Indian higher educational residential campuses. So there is a flow in the objective. Each objective is connected each other. Like, you cannot start with the sixth objective. You always has to start with the first, and which is interlinked to the second. Second is linked to the third. Third is linked to the fourth and fifth, and then the sixth. This is how the objectives, when you frame your objectives in your research, you have to carefully you have to derive your objectives. Aim is to evolve the operational campus sustainability assessment model or the tool for the higher educational residential campuses in India. Now, scope and limitation, very important. You have to derive these scope and limitations because you cannot complete everything in this journey of the research. So it's always better to be very clear about what is the scope and what are your limitation. So the sustainability studies in India will be carried within the only selected residential campuses. In my area, in my research, I have taken only IITs and only 6 IITs, or the even I have included IIAC as well, and also the Banaras Hindu University as the residential campuses. So that has to be mentioned very clearly, and also how many parameters, operational parameters you're going to study in your research. You have to mention at the beginning, and also the limitations is like sometimes you may not be, you may get a primary data, you may not get the primary data as well. So in that case, you have to be very clear about the what are the limitations in your study. So those things, it's always better to be very clear at the beginning of your research. And the important part is the methodology chart, which explains about entire journey. Always remember, the literature review is the first beginning of your research, but also each objectives should be linked with your methods. Now see here, if you see, these methods are included as a part of, this is a part of my objectives, which is included in chapter number 2. Then this part of journey, or this part of the objectives, or this content is covered or as a part of objective 2, 3, and then the 4, which is covered in chapter number 3 and 4. And then the fifth chapter, that is the last objective, or the last but one objective, which is covered in chapter number 5, and then the conclusions and the interference term. Very clear, by seeing at this methodology chart, you can make out this part of the journey is showing about objective 1, and this part includes objective 2, 3, and 4, and then this part covers about 5 and 6, and then this is a last chapter. So this is always better to write your methodology chart in this way, so that you will also be clear, and then the journey will be very clear. Yeah. This is the first objective where I don't want to go in detail about this, because this was a very exhaustive literature review which helped me to frame these kind of objectives. The first one is I try to understand the concept of operational sustainability. What is the initiative taken by each and every institution? So what I could sense here is, earlier there were a lot of declarations were made by individual campuses. And so these declarations, I try to understand what is the declarations is all about, what are the parameters which they were focusing on. So if you see the year wise, the 1972, 1975, 77, so these were the very initial moment of the sustainability, because the sustainability definition itself, it started on the later 90s, where Brundtland report, they talk about what is the sustainability is all about. So before that, I could say, or during that time, we could say that a lot of campuses wanted to, educational campuses wanted to talk about the sustainability through these declarations. And apart from that, later some of the developments, what I could sense is there were a lot of the associations or the organizations at the national level or even international level. I'm talking about the global level here. So these are the some of the organizations or the associations which do talk about the sustainability assessment of the campuses. Apart from that, I could also see there were a couple of sustainability assessment tools only for the higher education. So there were these things, but especially these 3 tools which I taken for the study, where they do talk about the assessment of the sustainability. And they were also talking about not only the operational sustainability, but social and the economic sustainability. So basically, this helped me to understand the different parameters, different main parameters and the indicators which are helpful for the assessment of the campuses. So I try to understand with lot of metrics through what exactly they do focus on, whether they talk about that international level or the national level. So these are a couple of metrics which I have developed, like whether it is like focusing on institutional culture of sustainability, or whether it focus on education or ecological or outreach program, or encourage sustainability in research community participation. So these are the some of the parameters which they were focusing on the early ages, or I can say in 1970s onwards. Then another study what I did is like I have taken almost around, there were more than 150 universities where I could see there were a little bit of initiation taken for the sustainability. So through that, I have taken around 25 random samples of these universities, and I try to understand what are the operational parameters which they do focus on. So here I could see most of, like the sample size here was only 25. So out of 25, most of the campuses were focusing on the energy and waste, and later on the buildings, the transportation, water, food, the land use also was a very important factor where most of the institutions were focusing on, and then the climate. So this helped me to understand the operational parameters and list the operational parameters for my studies. And simultaneously, I was also checking about the Indian education scenario. And again, this is very old data. You can see here, this is UGC 2012 report, where the distribution of the universities and then the central universities, state universities. This also helped me to understand the number of universities in India and their origin, and a lot of study has been studied at, in terms of Indian education system. Yeah, this is where after going the very exhaustive literature review, and then the kind of a tools they have used, and the kind of a parameters they have used, based on that we have listed a set of parameters, and also the tools which were used for the sustainability assessment tool, just to understand, because my the final proposal was to derive a model for the Indian campuses, and also to propose a assessment tool. So for that, this study was very important. So what this was a model which initially, or I can say this was a framework to analyze the operational sustainability of the higher educational campuses. So here, this is each and every campus I wanted to study in all the four dimensions. That is, one is the resource consumption, another one is the critical area analysis and perception analysis, and then tool-based analysis. So briefly, if I tell you, so I have taken the campuses, higher education, most of them are IITs, Banaras Hindu University, and then the IISc I have taken for the studies. And for all these campuses, first step was to understand the resource consumption analysis. So where we focused on like population analysis, the basic thing is I try to understand the total population in terms of the students, faculties, and teaching, non-teaching. All the list has been taken from the each and every institution, and also the land use area analysis, power consumption analysis, water consumption analysis, and the waste management analysis. So this is done for all the campuses which we have I have studied. So the study was taken for the 2007 to 2011. This year, all the 5-year data has been collected from all the campuses which I have taken for the study. And during this study, what I have identified is power consumption in most of the campuses, they do maintain the records, but the water consumption and waste management was a difficult task. In fact, this model was prepared, though I'm saying the sequence in resource consumption, critical area, and perception analysis, and the tool based. In fact, my journey started with the tool based analysis, where most of the tools were taken, and then they were cross compared, and all the parameters were listed, and the common parameters were again taken in a separate matrix, and each parameters and their weightages, all those parameter wise, and then the weightage wise is studied very, very in detail. And after that, a sample study was in, or a pilot survey has been conducted for taking all the three tools, which I will be talking about in the later slide. But by applying these tools for the Indian campuses, what I could sense here is Most of these tools are quantitative metrics. They have a quantitative analysis where you need a quantitative data. You need a number to understand where the institution is standing out. So through this, what I could sense is most of the parameters are not applicable for the Indian scenario, because this journey I already started simultaneously. So here I could sense land use, definitely I could get a lot of data, but power consumption definitely. But again, the campuses which I've taken for the study were the huge campuses where there was no decentralized data which was available. Most of the things were on a centralized data, which I will be focusing on my slide. So this made me to revise my tool based on the qualitative as well. You cannot have the assessment tool only quantitative basis. So I started simultaneously thinking about, can I really go for the qualitative as well as the quantitative as well? So that was a one conclusion from this, which I will be talking about through my slides. Apart from that, there were some of the campuses, especially the IIT Kanpur and IIT Madras and IIT Bombay. I could see uh, the the system was very good in terms of managing the data. So the power consumption in IIT Kanpur was really good. I could get all the data which I wanted to study. The special, but again, the IIT Kanpur may not be good for water consumption and then the waste management. So whenever I went and I visited, I collected data. That time I could sense that okay, now this I can take it for the detailed critical area analysis. So based on that, I have taken these three campuses for critical area analysis. That means the power consumption pattern and water consumption pattern in IIT Madras and waste management in IIT Bombay. Another interesting thing here, what I want to focus here is, I didn't take all the data simultaneously. The first I visited, I visited to IISc and I have taken the data, and I used to go back to the campus again. I used to analyze the data and I used to understand where are the difficulties I'm facing, and I used to analyze the data as well. It's not only the collecting and collating the data, but also analyzing the data, which helped me to again refine the direction which I was just going on. Otherwise, if I collect all the data from all the campuses, maybe sometimes when you do the data collection, that time you may not understand, but the moment you start analyzing the data, that time you may feel okay, now this data is may not be necessary. So it's always better, I suggest all the scholars, if you are taking around 6 or 7 case studies, always do one case study in detail, or maybe the pilot study you do it and then you revise your data collection method and then you analyze, and once you are really satisfied with the results, then only you go for the next. So this approach really helped me a lot. And the third the third type which I used is the perception analysis. So this was conducted for the detailed surveys. I will go through these where all I have conducted the survey, but this is especially on the perception because I wanted to know the user's perception. So for that, this I have adopted. In this, I have taken 4 different ways of understanding the perception. One is the parameter analysis, practice analysis, regulation analysis, and then the strategy analysis. And then, as I mentioned, tool-based analysis, I try to understand the problems for the Indian campuses by using these tools. And all these methods led to the identifying the list of important indicators and then the proposed assessment and proposing the assessment tool. Now, as I mentioned here, this part I will be talking about the resource consumption analysis, further divided into this metrics, where the first one is the population analysis, where for me what was important is the student, faculty, the entire community, entire data was collected, and the campus community number was collected, and then the land use area analysis, where footprint area, then the ratio of built to unbuilt, and per capita footprint area, built up area, then per capita built up area, and ratio of this footprint area to built up area. So all these things are not derived from my own. These were derived from the intense literature review. I could see one of the campus in US where they have used a per capita analysis, and then that was really promising, and I could apply that method to the Indian campuses. So that was the main reason by taking per capita consumption. So that led to my entire journey to understand what is the per capita. If you see, even in any of the rule, we generally talk about in terms of intake. If you see the AICT, if you see all these regulation bodies, or even the hospital, you take any example, we talk about the per capita. So that actually helped me to go through my journey again, understanding the per capita basis consumption. So similarly, the power consumption, I try to get the data in this way, and then the water consumption analysis, and then the waste management. So here I could say more in detail. Here I could get more in detail, but here these are the two things where I could not get the details the way I wanted to. And that is why the another three set of campuses are within the same set of campus, but I could focus more on power consumption in IIT Kanpur and IIT Madras, and then the IIT Bombay. So these were the data which was available in those campuses, and use that data to understand what are the ratio of power consumption to the built up area. So somewhere in the entire journey, I try to relate about the consumption per capita, consumption to the built up area to the water consumption, built up area to the, try to understand the relation between built up area to the power consumption, built up area to the water consumption, and then the waste. Is there any correlation? So those kind of studies have been conducted. And as I mentioned about the perception analysis, so this is a parameter wise, this is a practice based, this is a regulation based, and then this is a strategy based. So this helped me to come with the list of the parameters, especially the qualitative parameters, and which helped me to include those things in my qualitative sustainability parameters too. And as I mentioned about the tool-based analysis, where the STARS, UI Green Metric, and TCSRC, these were the tools internationally used. So this is actually internationally used. This is for European country, and this is for the US universities. So where they were talking about the operation, planning, admin, and engagement, education, and research. Whereas UI Green Metric is the one which talks about more of the operational parameters. And also this do talk about couple of operational parameters as well as the education, then setting and infrastructure. And yeah, the approach for the perception based is so these are the red dots which do talk about where I have done the primary survey, and this is where the blue dots talk about these all universities where I have conducted the secondary survey to understand the perception analysis, perception of about the higher education, especially for the residential campuses. So most of my studies limited to the IITs and then the NITs. The reason for choosing the NITs, the IITs, is the structure is very similar. If you see the organization, the structure as well as the working culture is almost it is similar. So that helped me to understand, because my one of the guide whom I should mention here, his name is Ashok Pandey. He was working in earthquake department. He was one of my third guide, I should mention, really helped me in lot of these discussions. So he was always used to say, whenever you want to compare, it has to be with a common denominator. There should be some commonalities. You cannot compare with the 8th standard students to the engineering student, or you cannot compare. There should be some commonalities through which you can do the comparative analysis. Most of the time I have seen the people do mistake in comparing the things. So when you compare the results, try to compare with the sum of the commonalities. Either it may be the age, it may be the year, it may be the area, it may be the pattern. Somewhere some commonalities you keep it in mind so that you can compare your data with respect to that. So keeping that in mind, so I started my journey again with IIT Roorkee for a pilot study. But initially I went to IISc, and then IIT Madras. So IIT, after IISc, I just went back, and again I went to IIT Madras, and then so basically this is a first journey. Then I went to IIT Kanpur, and then again back to Roorkee, then doing the collecting the data and then analyzing it, and then then again Banaras Hindu University, and then the last was the IIT Bombay. So this is a kind of a journey. But apart from that, when I met in person, I knew that I'm going to do the survey. But when I went, I didn't do the survey. But however, the survey questionnaire, everything, since I was very clear about the objective, and I knew the what are the methods which I'm going to implement. So I had all those connections. So I built that connections when I met the people over there, and so that the future when I want to conduct a survey, perception based survey, so those were the people who really helped me to circulate that survey link to all the students and then the stakeholders of that campus. So what I mean to say is be very clear right from the day one till the last journey of the research. Be very clear what is that you are going to do, what kind of a data you are going to collect. Maybe not 100%, but at least 80% of the clarity should be there. So sorry, so that you can simultaneously you can collect the data, and you can build those future networks. And so this was the primary. And the secondary, again NITs also work on a similar line with the IITs. So I have again targeted to all those NITs, and the link has been in fact this was again a very biggest journey, I should say. The survey was a very exhaustive survey. And again that time we were very new to this online survey, but still I learned a lot about this online survey. And also surveymonkey.com, lot of these paid survey links have been explored. But again financially thing, and also wanted to know the based on the limitations. But again being in this kind of institutions, integration, and taking help from other departments was really helpful for me. In fact computer science department students helped me to frame this questionnaire, exhaustive questionnaire, and then that was very helpful for me to float it across the students. So that was a one way of even building the network apart from your own architecture student or the planners or urban designers. But always it is always better to have, because when you do research, you always need to integrate, or you need to know so many other allied fields. So that way, this was a very helpful for me for to frame or to make a questionnaire, survey questionnaire. Okay, just in couple of slides, I'll be talking about the data which I have collected. So here is a brief profile of all these institutions. So these are the commonalities, as I mentioned, type of the institutions, all are the residential, nature of the institutions are all are the technical, but again, only the Banaras in University was a mixed one, but otherwise all the technical. Year of establishment, most of these IITs are in 1959. So you can see Madras, Kanpur, and then the Bombay in 1959. But IIT Roorkee 1853, and I don't know how many of you people are aware of it. This is the first engineering college in Asia. Earlier, it was known as the Thompson College, and then College of Engineering, then the University of Roorkee, and then in 2001, it became IIT Roorkee. But this is one of the oldest institution in Asia that time. Then this is IAC 1902. But area-wise, if you see, these are the different areas where the Banaras Hindu University is one of the biggest campus, and IIT Roorkee being the smallest as compared to all these areas. Student population, you can see the strength of the student, faculty population, staff population, total campus in residence, and then the student faculty ratio. Types of programs, again similar, and funded by central government. So these are some of the commonalities which were collected. First, as I mentioned, I have taken the land use, water, uh, waste, and then the energy. So all the campus, I could get easily the maps, the AutoCAD maps, and then I could do all the area-wise analysis. So these are the campuses. Like for example, this is a IAC where it is around 439 acres. Then IIT Madras is 612 acres. Banaras Hindu University is one campus I'm talking about, whereas the Banaras Hindu University has another campus in the same Banaras, which has around almost more than 2,000 acres. 1370 acres is what this one beautifully designed campus, planned campus where you have a lot of, these are the programs which the Banaras Hindu University has it. And so this is IIT Kanpur campus with 1,054 acres. I also wanted to take IIT Kharagpur, but again it was a 2,100-acre campus. So that's the reason I could not take that. But apart from that, the IIT Bombay has 455 acres, and IIT Roorkee is 365 acres campus. So, huge campuses, and also again, what I did is like in the land use map, I segregated these into different zones. Like for example, institutional and administration, staff quarters, hostels, then other amenities or other facilities, then open areas, managed green space, unmanaged green spaces. So that was the framework which we have worked out for to take the data for all these campuses. In one of the slide, I think you may see that breakup, how exactly this entire campus is maybe a kind of a different area, the zone wise, how I have taken that, and then based on that, the details have been collected. So basically, in the population, I try to collect the data of all the from, as I mentioned, all the 5 years for all the campuses were taken for the study. So 2007, what is the statistic, how it is increasing or decreasing, or what is the student faculty ratio. So all these things were taken for the consideration. Growth trends also taken into consideration. Sometimes the students, more departments, more number of increase in the strength, faculties became the constant. So all those trends have been noticed. This is a very important study, which are the basis, I can say, for to go for the most of the analysis. What because as I mentioned, the per capita or the per student was very important for me to analyze the data which I have collected. So basically, this is a very simple procedure where I have taken the total number of students. Very easy. Every institution will had this kind of a data. So student number I have taken, faculty number, staff, total staff, and number of quarters which are present in the campus. So here, as you see, IISc, number of quarters, and then the number of staff not allotted quarters is. Okay, so this number I have taken, but whereas the number of quarters I multiplied into the 4 as a household, per family members. So this is added. So A plus B plus C. So here I have taken this entire population of the campuses. So this made as a one of the basis for further analysis. So, so land use analysis, as I mentioned, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So you can see this entire campus is divided like this. So institutional and academics, then the hostel, staff quarters, other facilities which do, as you see in all these campuses, you have a lot of other facilities like sports arenas, or built up areas, like you have a police station, you will be having a bank, and a lot of other facilities built up area will be there. So those things were also taken into consideration. Then area under the road, playgrounds, forest and the farms, managed green space, unmanaged green spaces, and then the water body. So all the area collected were compared in this fashion. So you see the graph which shows about this part is less, but whereas these open areas are more in all these campuses, and also percentage of built up to unbuilt up of the footprint area were also taken into consideration. So here, this is where the comparison is made, and footprint of now here you can see the Banaras Hindu University. Again, this is an exceptional case study, but still wanted to check, because this is the first residential university in India where you have entire lot of programs with there. So I just wanted to study that as well, since IIT, the engineering department was, but that time this was not an IIT when I was studying, but after that I think it became a IIT BHU. So again, taking that land use as a consideration, footprint area per capita. Now here the per capita per student I have divided. Wherever the spaces were used by both student faculty, so then I have used that as a per capita. But some, for example, hostels exclusively by the students, so that is divided in this way. And so these are the average height of the building, just to understand the density of these buildings. So you can see IIT I see also like in the hostel, they are going more into vertical. IIT Madras with the 4.2 as an average height I'm talking about. But whereas the very recent hostels, you can also see with a lot of kind of a high rise kind of a thing. In IIT Bombay also you can see maximum vertical growth, but IIT Roorkee has a more of a horizontal spread campus. Then total power consumption. So that was the land use, and now this is about the power consumption. So each year again, the data was, this was a very, very biggest task. Most of the data was not computerized, and I literally remember, and even those were not even the decentralized. They were like either 1 or 2 meters, and then through that I could get the overall consumption. Even the zone wise, which I wanted to study for all the campuses for even the power consumption and then the water consumption, I couldn't do because the data was not available in that format. So that was the reason where this power consumption was made in a different way based on the data which was available. So again, it was converted into per capita. And similarly, the water consumption, the biggest drawback here is most of these campuses are relied on the underground water. There is no municipal water municipal connection where the metering is done, and through which we can just measure the number of like water usage. Only what we how I have done is like based on the motors where it is located, number of motors, and then the number of hours running, and then the water and then the power consumption based on the meter running. So that is some of the thumb rule which were made to just to get the data. And also in the power consumption, most of the time I could say, like for example, as I mentioned, 2007 to 2012. So I could see, for example, January to February, I could get the some of the readings, but suddenly there were missing data, which is around 4 or 5 months. I couldn't. So I wanted to say see the trend, and I couldn't get that trend because the data was not available. So then my professor, I used to discuss these things, because otherwise if I get the data, then only I can see the trends. I can do some kind of a conclusion. So then that time one of my guides suggested to focus on the ANN as a software. So that was installed. Again, I learned ANN just to understand the missing data, which really helped me to understand based on the trend what may be the tentative reading of that month. So that software was used for to understand the missing data, to get the missing data. So a lot of most of the campuses have used ANN as a software to get the missing data of that particular month, because 12 months multiplied by, so at least 60 months I wanted to get a regular data, so just to understand the thing. So what I mean to say is, though we do the extensive literature review, but during the journey of the research, again you have to go through a lot of, you may need a lot of these tools to understand, okay, mm, mm, to understand how this can be done. Then again you have to go through, okay, now what are the different tools I can use it. Not necessarily then the basic thing is, the moment you start with PhD, don't have that mindset that no, this I need, I'm from only from the architecture or urban design or the planner background. Keep your thing open and try to learn so many things from different discipline. That really helps you a lot for analyzing the data. So similarly, waste management again, some of the campuses, they really had a very good practice, especially in IIT Kanpur and even IIT Bombay. IIT Bombay had a metering system in each and every hostel in a decentralized way. Every hostel had their own way of, they used to weigh the waste, and then they used to segregate it, and then they used to either reuse or recycle, or that kind of a measures they used to do. So that helped me to even get the data. Otherwise, it was very difficult to get that. Even in IIT Madras, they had they have given it for the outsourcing, where the self-help group females used to take care of the segregation of the waste at campus. So the moment you do all these measures, so at least some data will be available. So based on that, the data was collected individually, campus wise. So this was also try to understand like how the built up area is related to the, like per capita built up area is related to per capita power consumption, per capita water consumption, and per waste management. Is there any correlation? So this kind of a relation try to identify. So then the second part, very important part to understand each and every the consumption in detail. So I try to take the campuses where I could get the really detailed data. So this was the IIT Kanpur campus where they used to maintain the power consumption in this format. So academic area, then central AC plant, the hostel, residential plus community centers, commercials and contractors, water supply and sewage disposal, street lights and miscellaneous. So this was the data was available in these different categories. The same data has been taken into consideration. Even they had the hostels, each hostel wise also they had a consumption data. So again, try to understand on a similar fashion. Then the water consumption, IIT Madras really maintained very well in terms of the consumption of the water. So every month they have this data, which is a the soft copy which was available. So that again helped me to go through in detail. So again, they had this data, which was a residential zone, hostel zone, institution zone, and then the lawns, and then the through the tractor or the trailers, how much water was consumed. Then the same method was used to understand the correlation. And then IIT Bombay waste management. You can see here the hostels. These are the number of hostels, and these are the different houses or the guest houses, and also the staff quarters. And so this is a staff canteen, Gulmohar Marg. There is a one more set of buildings. So this is a residential dry garbage and multidisciplinary. So this entire thing, they really had a good data, so which I could get it from 2012 data year wise. So the third step was to analyze stakeholders' perception. As I mentioned, this is a secondary and primary data survey. So this was a huge list of questionnaire because I wanted to do it more exhaustive. Ideally, it is not advisable to have these many questions, but however, I wanted to propose a tool. So I wanted to know about the kind of a parameters used, the kind of a perception, and the kind of a practices which they are doing it across different institutions. So this I have carried for all most of IITs and then the NITs. Almost I could get around 1269. So just wanted to share a couple of my memories with this. It took almost 6 months to only derive or only to frame the questionnaire for this. Every day we used to discuss with the guide saying that, okay, if I ask this question, what will be the consequences? How do they may respond? What are the problems? Which, because I wanted to send it to most of these campuses, so I didn't want it to do any mistake in framing the question. So we need to realize, okay, now what are the problems which may. So in understanding all these things, framing the questionnaire, it itself took almost more than 6 months. After that, how it has to be circulated again to make it with the coding, and all those computer science students help me to again frame this link through IIT portal. And that again took almost around 2 to 3 months. And after that, the survey was carried out. So this is a very, very exhaustive survey which I carried out to understand the perception, understand the parameter, understand the strategy which every campus is have used. So basically, the questions were asked based on water, energy, transportation, and others, then waste, building, and climate and quality. So and yeah, these are the some of the. This is the third criteria, the third practice analysis, where you can see the campuses, you can see IITs, you can see the new IITs as well, and NITs. So these were the respondents. So based on these answers, which help me to know whether they have been practicing this. So here you can see adequate then and now, adequate then and inadequate now, inadequate then and adequate now, and inadequate then and now. So cannot say. So based on this, I could say, okay, now these campuses, what are the major practices which are happening? So it helped me to understand where focus is there, where there is less of focus, and taken these into consideration for the proposal. And also the question were asked about where all the regulations were required. So now these questions were questions were sent to all the stakeholders for all the faculties. In fact, that time AI and all these tools were not available. In fact, I remember each and every website I used to go because all the faculty list and the faculty email has to be there. So based on that, I used to make the complete Excel chart with only collecting all their email IDs. Apart from the students was very difficult, but at least for all the faculties database, I have collected, again, it was a very extensive work of 2 months to collect almost all the faculties email ID because I wanted to do it an online survey. So this the regulations, and thankfully I got a really good response, and everybody responded for most of the questionnaire. And also the questionnaire were set in a such a way that it consisted of around 5 parts. But if a respondent wanted to respond only for the first part, at least I should get that first answers. So that what I was talking about, this 1236 respondents is not same even for the fifth part of the questionnaire, because slowly, because number of questions were more, but I could get at least first part, so many people were responded. Part B, it was responded for so many. So I could get the answers, at least a little bit answers for all these things, and that helped me again to go into where all the regulations are required, what kind of a practices, and strategy analysis. So by doing all these things, I try to understand, I try to make the list of the parameters important, and also try to understand the ranking based on the perception, and which is more important, which has to be prioritized, because as we are talking about this assessment tool, so we need quantitatively, so I need to know where I have to focus more, where I have to focus less. So those things has to be worked out in detail. For that, these kind of answers, apart from the assessment tools which cross compared, so both the things help me to derive the indicators and then the benchmarks. Now, coming to the fifth and then the sixth objective, where I was supposed to propose, like the fifth objective was to propose sustainability model suitable for Indian residential campuses of higher learning. One is a model proposing, and also to evolve a set of suitable sustainability indicators, assessment tool, and benchmarks for Indian higher educational campuses. Yes, so this was a study I mentioned earlier about the tool-based analysis, where these three tools were used, and try to understand these are the different 19 parameters which they are talking about. And everything was normalized to 100. Actual rating system was different, but I try to compare, since I wanted to compare all these three, so I normalized the data to 100. So in this, I wanted to see the weightage. So here the building weightage was 4.3, and UI metrics was talking about different number. Then this was another tool was talking about different. So this variation I could see when I try to compare with all these three tools together. In fact, at the beginning of the journey, what I did is I have taken almost more than around 100 campuses across the globe, and I try to see those hundreds were all listed by stars, UI metric, and then this tool. And I try to compare those all 100 listed campuses by all the three campuses, and I could see the very different scenario, just to show that, for example, I have taken around 10 campuses here. Now, the same year, and that comparison was for 3 years. So here I have just taken only for 1 year. So here you can see the same university is assessed by three different tools, whereas this tool talking about this is really good university having a A plus, but whereas this stars rating is different. The reason behind is this tool is different, priority is different. So this is very different to say that this is correct and this is wrong. So this kind of a different practices were seen when it comes to the assessment tool. This is what the same graph, where I could see here the 10 campuses, each campus is been rated like this, different. So that was amazing to understand that the perception varies from person to person, tool to tool, and even the country to country. And I also try to understand, taking all these parameters, this is just a application. So can I really assess our campuses, all the campuses? Because during this time, I had all the data because I have completed all the data collection of all these campuses. So I try to understand based on these. So you can see there were around a total 243 parameters under the stars. Okay, so in this 96 parameters were under the indicators were under the operation, education and research were 60, planning, admin and engagement were 87, and total there were around 243 indicators. Okay, so in this I could see where all the our, it's only about whether it is can be applied, it is not about assessment. So this study helped me to understand whether these things can be really implementable. So here IAC, you can see only these many things. Out of these things, you can see only this 17 indicators can be applied. So the number was not very pleasing. The similar way, the second tool which I have taken here, where these are the different parameters and these are the indicators. So even in this, I could see the applicability of for all these campuses were very less. This is again, I'm repeating, I'm not assessing these things based on their tool. I'm only saying whether the indicators out of this 33 indicators, how many indicators are really I can take it for our Indian campuses. So that was a study which I was doing for our campuses. Similarly, the UI. The best part of here I could see is UI green metric, where they're talking more on the green building and then the administration, but still couple of parameters were a little bit, we can take it for the UI green metric. So based on all these three studies, wherever it is applicable, in the proposal stage, I have taken all those parameters as a kind of a indicators and the parameters for the proposed tool, because already been tested during the earlier research. So here you can see the results of application of assessment tool for all these campuses, where this tool, the stars for IAC, you can see only 3% I can only apply. I'm not talking about the results here. I'm only talking about the application. So in UI green metric, I can take 51% of the parameters may be applicable. Similarly, CSRC is only 21%. So this is the another study which led to come out with the new approach or the new tools. Yes, this was the fifth um, objective, where the proposal, after all these analysis, this was the proposal made. So as mentioned in the literature review, campus sustainability, they do talk about social, operational, economic and educational. So operational do talk about action levels, data availability, and the indicators and the assessment. So this is the broad model was proposed, but again it was exhaustively made more in detail, where this is the operational campus, this is all the proposal. So operational campus sustainability, where I was talking about this part, is having more details like this. So this is an operational campus sustainability model, that is OCSM. It had the action level, data availability, indicators, and the assessment. So basically, when we go for the action level, the first part, very important thing, is the base data processing. We need to check whether the data is available to understand the consumption. So basically, the entire research was to understand whether we are aware of how much we are consuming. Because most of the time we say, I have used solar panel, I have used rainwater harvesting, I have used these things. And we may say, okay, 5%, 10%. But if we say the 5% on what basis? If I say I am consuming this is what XYZ number, and based on that I can say, okay, now the 5% or the 10% is what I have achieved. So to do that, the basic work, the basic proposal or the basic need of the campuses are to first to make the data which is available in a proper format. And so for that, this was a very important step which was proposed. which had a two component. As I mentioned, the preliminary data and then the detailed data. Most of the campuses, the data which is required is not available in almost all the parameters. So that first at the macro level, we need to know what kind of a data is available in these parameters. If you say, yes, this preliminary data is available, if you say yes, then you go for this basket of data processing indicators, which was also worked out in detail. I will show you in the next slide. If you say no, or sorry, if you say no here, you go with this. If you say yes, then you go to the next step where detailed data, the in terms of, this is what the framework which was derived in terms of the institutional, administrative, hostel area, staff quarters, other facilities, roads, playground, forest, and the same the way I have divided the total area. So on the similar fashion, whether we need to know the data is available. If you see here, the attempt was to made to collect the data in a decentralized way. Most of the observation during my journey or during the case studies or when I visited over there, most of the data was very centralized way. Like for example, if I say the consumption in IIT Roorkee, I can say there may be some of the areas where they will collect the power consumption. It is not something with the, if I ask the question, how much power is consumed in this institution or any administrative building, they don't have data, because the individual power consumption was very, very difficult to maintain, or it was not maintained during that. I don't know the present scenario, but this was during, I'm talking about in 2011 to 15. And this is where the proposal was at least to maintain the data in terms of land use in all these details, even the power consumption in a decentralized way, power and water, and then the waste. If you say yes, then you can go for the basket of data indicators, which worked out in detail for this second stage. So once you satisfy all these things, then we are eligible, or I can say the campus is ready for the assessment. Most of the time we neglect all this part and then we go directly for the assessment, for which we may not get the data which is generally maintained or which is recorded. So that was the main reason for proposing this model for all campuses, where we need to know whether the data is available, what state of data it is available, whether it is a preliminary or whether it is a detail. If the preliminary data is there, can I really go for the next level? You can still go for the next level. Again, it will be at a initial stage, but if you go for the next level, you will get a more detailed data, and then the set of indicators will be detailed, worked out. And this also I have listed. I will show you in this next slide. And after once you cross this indicators, then you can go for the assessment. So in this assessment, I derived two tools. One is QNSAT and one is QLSAT. QN stands for Quantitative Sustainability Assessment Tool. QL stands for Qualitative Sustainability Assessment Tool. And so this is the outcome. So the moment you assess your campus, then you will understand where all we are performing, where we are not performing. And then again, based on that, you again go for the cycle goes and continues. Once you satisfy with this, then again you go for the planning and then the execution, monitoring and measurement and maintenance. And this was specified in my limitation, or I can say even the scope of the research, because this is the only part which I worked out in my research. And then this I did not work out more in detail about how the planning, again it may be having another set of this kind of a metrics or the model to again execute, or the planning level and again execution level, that may be. So once you complete this cycle, again you go for the data processing. So this is how this the model which was proposed for the main model which was proposed as outcome of the research. So these are the here I was talking about the preliminary data. So here these are the preliminary data. Definitely these data was available in almost all the campuses. So here the land use, where you can see the data which was available. Energy was it was very easily available data, and waste, and then the water. So this is the list of indicators for going for the preliminary data. The second one is the data processing indicators for the detailed data. So if you see this model, so I'm talking about this data. So if you say yes, then you go for this for the detailed data. So for this detailed data, this is what the table I'm talking about, where you need to know each and every land use in these. So in fact, this was also was a reference which was taken by the US university, which I mentioned, that is Ann Arbor campus, where they have extensively used per capita consumption for each and every parameters. So similarly, the land use, the energy, so the entire data, and it was modified based on the data which was available, based on the data which can be possible from the campuses which we have, which I have studied. So land use, then the energy. So there were around I think 75 indicators were detailed out under the 4 parameters. So again, water, waste. So that is done, and so these are the so now going back to the quantitative assessment tool. So I wanted to know the benchmarks where we have the guide suggested me to go for the benchmarks, where because the quantitative we need a number. So for that I went for the understanding, because I had analyzed with these parameters for all the 5 campuses for 5 years. So that helped me to understand the benchmarks. So I'll show you the benchmarks, which how it was derived. So basically the population was one of the important basis. After that, the land use, the total footprint area, institutional and administration per student was taken, then the total students. So each and every built up area based on the usage was divided by the total number of students, or either the faculties or the capita. So this is the daily power consumption, total power consumption. So with this, these are the numbers which were derived from the analysis or the data which was collected from all these 5 campuses. So here, for example, density of the population, this was IIC was this was a density, and IIT Bombay was density was more. So what is more ideal? More density is better for the power consumption, or the to reduce the consumption. So ideal, it was taken 100. So based on this, 130 was taken as a benchmark for this particular parameter. Now the land use. So all these land uses, the data was collected, analyzed, these were the numbers, the results, and again, based on this comparison, the benchmarks were derived based on the either that parameter is required, the or the indicators required the minimum data or the maximum. For example, water consumption. Minimum is always the better. So that minimum data was taken into the consideration. For example, here, the daily power consumption per capita for that particular current year. So here the 4.35 is a minimum. So the 4 is taken as the round off figure and as a benchmark. So similarly, this has been calculated for all these parameters. And then the next one, based on that figure, now the Q and SAT has been worked out. There are a lot of permutation combination we have worked out, and then finally the guide accepted this one, this kind of a tool. So how it works, as I mentioned here, the density was taken as 100. Now 100 was the minimum. Then again, this was worked out in this fashion with the 5-point scale, with 0 to 10, 10, 11 to 25, 25 to, so 25% as an interval was taken, and increase the data in such a way so that this can be useful for the assessment of the campus. Similarly, the land use, the same benchmarks which were taken from the earlier table, and then these data or the numbers were derived. And then if any campus you take into example, if the data comes under this, then you will get a 2 point. If the data comes under this, you will get a 3 point. This is how the tool was proposed for all these indicators. So that was the one tool which was suggested. Then again the strategy indicators, because now we talk about the strategy, now there we talk about the consumption. So once we know the consumption, if I say the consumption is more, then I need to know the remedies, I need to know the different strategies which can be implemented for each and every campus, so which where it will help for me to even the reduce that number as well. So for that, again the list of strategy indicators were derived. Again, this everything is based on the literature review. So where the land use, energy, waste, and this was a very exhaustive list of the indicators collected from all the literature review. And so taken, for example, land use, I've considered around 10. And these were all the overlaps where most of the assessment tools were considered. So those only strategies were taken into consideration. So land use, where again, this is not the only the number, it will again extend again, because as I mentioned, this is a 10 years old data now. So now again, if you start working, so this may even will be more in number. So land use, then energy, I had around 18 indicators. Then under the waste, I had listed around 26. Then around water, again around 21 indicators were listed as a strategy indicators. So which can be helpful. Not necessary, like for example, these are the 21 in strategy indicators were listed. If, for example, a campus wanted to go for any of the strategy, they can go with either I can go for water, wastewater recycling. Can I go for the? It is a kind of a it's a kind of a framework through which the any campus they can just go through whether I can go for this or whether I should go for each and every. That is why, that is where the earlier the model which I was talking about, the planning execution level. So I can say this year I can go only for these parameters and then I can execute this. So that way the an institution always can work for the short term and then the long term goals based on these strategies derived. And all these strategy indicators or the sustainable indicators were listed into 4 hours that time. Now again there are 7 hours, 8 hours, everything, but that time we were mostly, I could say, I could see the 4 hours. So it was again listed under reduce, reuse, recycle and regenerate, because always it is always better to go for this remedy. Reduce is a best way of going more into sustainable measures. So that's the reason the land use, energy, so the same set of parameters were listed in this table. So where I could see the 10 land use, where you can see around 9 comes under reduce and then the regenerate. Similarly, water. So there were around total 75 indicators were proposed as a strategy planning or the strategy. And where you can see that under reduce, reuse and recycle, so all these were listed like this. So this is how the abstract of the table. So land use, energy, water, waste, and then so there were around 43 indicators under the reduce, reuse around 11, recycle, regenerate, and even the under the land use there were around 11. And then, so this is how it has been showcased, proposed. And then based on that also you can now you can analyze, saying that whether it is not at all implemented, partially implemented, half it is implemented, completely implemented, or fully extremely implemented, or fully implemented. So this is where the qualitative sustainability assessment in terms of the strategy indicator. So this is one of the tool which was proposed at the second stage. So after proposing, we need to validate as well. So the same, whatever it is being done, and then again it is analyzed through all the campus and then wanted to check how they are performing. And it was actually applicable for all these campuses, whatever the tools and measures were proposed. So this is what the entire journey, and again, these are the conclusions which I don't need to talk about much. But so this is the last chapter of the proposal, and so here, if anybody wants to refer, because of I think 1 hour time was given, I almost crossed that, so I don't want to again stretch the thing, but. So here, if anybody wants to refer, this report is available online. So you can go to shodhbhagirathi.iitr.ac.in, or you can simply write the PhD thesis IIT Roorkee. You will get my thesis over there. So this is available. I'm just clicking just to show you this. So this report is available here. You can just refer everything, whatever I have explained. It is available in this platform. And so these are the, yes, what is more important is the publication again. But yes, unfortunately, core research was not published during that time. Again, as every researcher, at the beginning, they will be very excited to write a paper and then the journals. But after that, the journey is like just to wind up and submit the thesis. So because of that, most of the time we do this blunder where the proposal part is always missing in terms of the publications. It's always missed in terms of the publication. So, but however, I'm happy to share that during this 4 years of full-time research scholar, I could produce around 6 journal publications, out of which one was Elsevier and another one was International Journal of Environmental Sciences, which is an international scientific journal. And actually, as per the rule during that time, we were supposed to write one journal publication of a repute, and two conference, one in international, one in national. But however, I try to publish the earlier research. The reason for even writing a paper at an early stage also, it helps you to get a good review. And always I suggest all of you people to write in a very, very good journal at the beginning, so that you will get a very good response from the reviewers. It helps you to refine your methods, and you can always revise, and then you can whether it is published in that journal, no matter, but still you will get a very good response. In fact, I did the same thing, where I have listed couple of very, very good high impact journal thing during my methods. So during that time, I used to send the journal to those high end publisher, and the review I used to get was really amazing, which helped me to refine my methods. So these are a couple of journals which published during that time, 6 journal publication, and around 4 conference publications. And so this is it from my side. And yes, just one small suggestions, like, definitely if anybody has registered, always I suggest them go for, or not yet registered, go for a full-time research scholar. It helps you. The 4 years of journey, and as I mentioned, around 2011. So full time, it helps you to also dedicate yourself for that journey, and also uh, you will complete on time, and you will justify the research. Many times difficulties in part-time research, you are engaged with lot of your personal commitment, professional commitments, and somewhere you will end up with some kind of an imbalance in maintaining all the three together, or the four together. So that was the one advice. And write more papers during the initial stage, even at the mid journey, so that your methods will be more clear. And definitely, if you write on the final chapters, some publications is always advisable. So with this, I think I have a lot of other slides. I don't think if you need any, so the lot of analysis sheets also have included if anybody wants to interested. So otherwise, so thank you so much. In fact, I really got a very good response for this. A lot of people have registered, and I'm very grateful to them. So if any questions, I'm very open for it.
We are open for questions now.
Yeah.
So you can just unmute yourself and ask questions.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Director Shaila Bantanur ma'am, for giving a brief your journey. Just I want to ask, if you would have conducted this PhD now, what would have been the changes? What would have looked into?
No, in
Because you have
fact,
done
there
it
will
in a 31, but with respect to technology, the changes what happened.
uh,
How would you have done this approach of this PhD now?
in fact, entire approach will be totally different because the entire research was done very manually, I should say. Because even literature review, it was like a very conventional way of doing it, like using Excel as a one sheet and then literally going through each and every taken some of the printouts of the research papers, highlighting that, and then so that kind of approach which I have done it. But definitely because now I'm continuously watching our own research dialogue series, it's even more advanced where AI is used, and bibliography analysis and everything was much more easier. But it has its own pros and cons because when I do in person, I really understood it in so well, and I could because otherwise using these devices, I don't think I'll be more clear about the methods. Though you will get entire results, but that may be the one limitation. But again, it will speed up the research. But apart from that, even the tools I could have used even. Lot of softwares nowadays which I couldn't use it during my research, and again the parameters wise also it will change. So I think definitely it will be a new entire research, but approach maybe the new approaches which I could have which will definitely come into picture, strategies and parameters. And nowadays SDG is in goal, and a lot of policies are in place. So somewhere I need to link that into the national policies, international policies, and carbon footprint and zero energy. All those things will come into picture, and definitely the parameters will entire. I think there will be around 60 to 70% things will definitely will change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please unmute yourself and ask questions. I think somebody else had also unmuted sometime back.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, currently, actually, I got enrolled into PhD, and I'm right now in literature stage.
Okay.
So I have a question like how we need to identify research gap, because whenever I was trying to look into a lot of literature and all, I was getting confused like how we can identify research gap, because when we look into a lot of subject and lot of parameters that are getting involved, so how we can scrutinize research gap in that particular subject?
It's everybody face this problem, madam. Actually, the research gap identification is one of the biggest deal. But as I mentioned, like you should be like very clear what is that you're going to do it. So for example, at least you stick to some of your keywords. Okay, so that helps you to go into one journey. Most of the time, what will happen is you read one paper, and that paper will lead to some of the areas. Then you try to go into that direction. Okay, now this is more interesting. I think I need to go do with this. Somewhere you will not able to understand where I really want to go and what is that I'm going to do it. So try to always, first thing is just simply read the abstract. Don't do all the complete paper. Okay, so then try to do the metrics wise. Don't do the more of a qualitative wise compiling of the information. Just to try to understand. Like a simple example is like in the initial day of my research, I wanted to understand what are the main parameters which they where the it is been not been done, or which are the parameters where it is not been focused or where the gap is there. So but when you compile the information, I think somewhere you will understand, okay, now this is where it has been more focused, this is where it has been less focused. But it's again you need to have a more literature review, but in a focused literature review. Otherwise it will lead to a lot of confusions, and then you will end up with the same thing identifying the gaps. But best way of doing is identify a very or refer very latest publications, and also very good journal publications you try to refer, so that you will be very updated with what is happening in and around with your topic. And also try to understand, try to also follow. Nowadays you have a lot of these online platforms where you can literally follow the what is the research being carried out by XYZ or a particular person, so you will understand what is being done as of now. So through that also it will help somewhere to understand what it is being not done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, am
Shrikant,
I
yes.
audible?
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, good afternoon. This
good
is
afternoon.
Arunima. I'm working on my PhD thesis. I'm 1 year into the PhD. I have
Okay,
this concern in terms of the amount of data that is available, for us to look at and to filter through the data. Like one of the things that you said is read the abstract and don't get into the details of it without really realizing if it is relevant or not. But
yes.
apart from that, how do we sort of understand? It is very easy to stay away. Apart from only sticking to our methodology or to read our own processes time to time to be able to be on track. But what are other tools we can use is one question. And second question is, if you can elaborate on this matrix method of work that you were suggesting.
Okay. See, actually, what I suggest is we have a very nice research dialogue series. In fact, a couple of sessions focused only on how to read a paper, how to even write a paper, how to use a AI as a tool and all that. I suggest all of you people to go through that. It is, explained each step by step. And so in terms of metrics, what I was talking about is try to actually do it in a more quantitative way. Most of the time, when you read a paper, then you generally tend to write in a paragraph, and then, you tend to forget about those keywords in your entire research. So it's always better to use a metric saying that, okay, now, for example, in my case, I'll tell you, for example, one tool which talks about these days. So try to put that in one metrics, and then you say like the other one, which so it helps you to understand both in horizontal and then even vertical. So you will see, okay, now this has been commonly practiced, this has been not been practiced, or this has been like for example, the I wanted to cross check with the weightages whether it is being changed. So for that, mostly around 100 campuses were studied in the same year, and then did it in a metric wise, so that it helped me to understand where it has been not and where it has been more focused and all that. That way it will help you to check in through the metrics. But I think nowadays you may use a lot of these softwares which will itself will help you out.
Any other question? I think we have a question in the chat box about the use of AI, how useful it is.
To be very frank, I have not used AI for my research. In fact, I think I cannot answer this because I have not used, but again, it has its own limitations and then pros and cons. But be very careful when you are using it, its authenticity, you check, because most of the time when we go for a publications, and giving a proper authenticity is very, very important. I suggest you to go into, like, a lot of nowadays resource available how to use AI as a in fact, in one of the session we also focused on how to use AI in the research. I think that will help you out.
All our previous research dialogues are available on YouTube. You can just check out our channel there.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
This is Shrikant. Thank you for an insightful presentation. I had a few questions. The campuses that you've taken are having a varied scale.
Yes.
When it comes to achieving sustainability on large land parcels, that is the institutional campuses, what is your perspective? Is should we start categorizing them into different typologies based on scale? Is there an ideal scale? That is one question. And as we scale up with respect to the land parcel, these parameters also, should they be scaled up, or should there be any specific set of parameters based on scale uh, that you have started with? These are the two questions. Thank you.
Okay. So the first question is, as I mentioned, these campuses actually are of a different scale. Definitely, but the pattern was same. The pattern was same. The way it was working is almost same. That helped me to go with a similar pattern or the parameters which may be which are even in a practice also, which was very similar to all the campuses. It doesn't even varied with the in terms of number of scales or the scale of the campus, I can say. But every parameters and every indicators, it all depends on, like as I mentioned, IIT Kanpur had a focused more on the energy point, the power point of view in terms of the data management. See, entire, as I mentioned, 75 indicators, and then there are 4 parameters. Under that, there are so many indicators, and every institutions, even whatever the scale it is, to sustain or to achieve in all is very, very difficult. Again, we should have to have either a short term or a long term goal, saying that okay, now this year, or we should say like where are we performing and where are we are not performing. So that's why I think somewhere that but it is nothing to do with the scale of the campus. It is to do with the focus of the practice, where you want to go first priority wise, which is more, should I go with the energy, or should I go with the waste, should I go with the water? Again, it again, for example, even the consumption wise, they were very different. The local weather climatic conditions were different in Chennai, based on the local weather climatic conditions, where you had water consumption more, and where heating and cooling load in the northern campuses were more. So that way, every campus has its own unique way, and there are a lot of influences. So everything you consider, and then you try to prioritize which parameter we can go. Again, there are a lot of things, like for example, logistic comes into picture, and what is that you want to do. So all those things will play an important role. So it's always it is a never ending story, I can say, like you pride short term and long term goal, and that's what in the model I showed. It doesn't end over there. It is just it is revolving.
We have another question in the chat box. It's a little cryptic though, from Dr. Dattatreya. It says case study in physical visit or as on record, meaning I think he's asking for pros and cons about all your experience. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. In your slide for land use mapping, you collected the data on physical mode, or you on a record for campuses? Because this is a huge data for working of this
Yes.
premise.
Yes. See, all campuses I visited in person. Okay. So almost around, I used to spend 10 to 15 days in one campus. That's what the system was, helped me to, all these working out with all logistics, because the dean of IIT Roorkee needs to only send a letter to the dean of the concerned IIT, so that they will take care of my accommodation and all those things. That way it was very helpful. And so 10 days I used to stay. And so most of the each and every campus has their own building department. So they had an AutoCAD map. And so I used to collect all those AutoCAD maps because the zoning was not made as per what I wanted to. So I used to collect the AutoCAD map of, in fact, till now I have all those AutoCAD map of all these campuses. Based on that, I try to made a zone, and then the area calculation were made in that way. But difficult part was when I went to Banaras Hindu University, a huge campus, and then they were that time, I don't know, now the system must have been changed. So they used to give me a lot of books, like the registers. Okay, now this is what they used to literally take the readings or the record the readings manually. So I have, I think, 2-3 trunks of books where I used to take all the photographs manually, and then I used to convert that into Excel sheet, and then I used to take the records. So that was a huge task. Even in IISc, I didn't get the data the way I wanted to. Or see, I wanted only the consumption. I wanted only the how much electricity is being consumed, not in even a decentralized way, but even that was not available. Water consumption was the biggest task. And sometimes they used to say, no madam, I have so many lorries, I have so many these many trucks, they will come and then they will. But quantifying see, the reason was selecting these IITs was assuming that they really maintain all the data in a very systematic way, and then that may help us to go for the more analysis. But my most of the journey was only in a collecting of the data, and it was not on the portal, it was not even through any of the online portal or any of the department through which I could get it. So it was only through personally visiting there and collecting manually and converting that into the soft copy, and then started so that's why when I started collating that data into the Excel, that time I could say, oh, these at least 6-7 bills are missing only in that year. So how do I understand the trend? So that time my professor used to tell, okay, now you learn ANN software. So that was very, very new for me. So then, okay, now then I started, then I randomized the samples and, the data, because just to confuse the patterns, so that otherwise the same pattern may come out as a result. So those were the things. So it was a very, very tedious to collect the data manually, and converting that into the software. In fact, after my research, I shared those Excel sheets to some of the departments. Maybe that may be helpful for that. In fact, I must say, my son, I used to take with me, and I used to tell him, okay, now you sit in this department, I'll collect all the data. And he used to just take the photographs, and then those photographs, even that time, not very smartphone and all that. So those physical photographs, and from there, I have converted that into the Excel sheet. So this was a fun part of, or a very tedious part of it.
Yes, ma'am. And how much period for your case study work, and also for you, your team has worked on this, or one man show you complete this work?
Yes, it was a one-man army only, because but
So
that's what
great.
it helped me for the full-time research. That's why I always advise for all the people to go for a full-time, because trust me, I didn't take any of the holidays, though I didn't had any binding like you should have. But it was a very dedicated study where every day it's like. But again, no night outs, nothing. But very systematically it was done. But again, it was a one-man army itself. But only I could take a help of couple of research scholars to how to use ANN. Even Excel, I didn't know the macro, how the macro command has been can be used. And that's why like you need to interact with a lot of these technical people also, like other discipline people also, because they use very amazing tools which may be helpful for us also. Sometimes we are very conservative in using our way, very restricted in using the tools.
Okay. And ma'am, which campus you have to select for your proposal?
Which can you repeat, sir?
Which campus you have to select for your research proposal?
Research proposal. Yeah. See, I have taken those 6 campuses, right? Then again, if I want to take one more campus for the validating the proposal, then again I have to collect the entire data for that 5 years, and then the same thing will go on. So the validation was done based on what campus I have taken. So I have taken IIT Roorkee as a pilot study. And after that, IISc, then IIT Madras, then IIT Kanpur and Banaras Hindu University, and then IIT Bombay, and then IIT Roorkee again in once again for a more detail. But online did lot of NITs.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have another question in the chat box. Would you like to read out the question? Okay, I'll read it out. Sustainable strategies were listed are general, and was there any specific suggestions or strategies for particular campus specific to energy, water, waste, etc.?
Okay, see, this list of indicators or the strategy was not made for particular campus. It was made for an exhaustive literature review, and each and every campus can choose those. This is a kind of a, that's what I have used the word as a basket of indicators. So this is a data which is available. You use those strategy indicators, you take that for your benefit of the institution. So it is nothing to do with the one particular campus. But priority wise, whichever you want to use, you can use. That is an available metrics. It is not been made by me that these are, because the moment you go for any assessment tools, it is even in general also nothing to do with the higher educational campuses only, but lot of assessment tools did had these kind of a lot of strategies to reduce, reuse or recycle. So those things where only it was collected, and then it was staggered into the different reduce, reuse and all that. And then it is a priority of an institution where I want to go for the water, then you have a basket of indicators, you refer, and then you cross check yourself based on the data, and then you go for the remedies. So that is how it is being done.
I think there's another question from Dr. Dattatraya about the data collection part, whether you used Google form or which part was manual.
Okay, for the survey, I have used not exactly the Google form, because the Google link or the form was had a limitation. As I mentioned, I think around I had part A to part E, and each part were having around 20 to 25 questions. And more exhaust, and those 25 questions were different, five different parameters. So that was a main challenge for me, like how do I really conduct the survey, because offline was it was impossible. And so I had a discussion with my guide and then the professor from other departments. So he has suggested it has to be tailor-made form. So then they have even suggested some of the online survey forms, but that also didn't work out, because it had, again, it is a limitation, and also they said up to 500 I can use. But for me it was an open-ended, because list, as you say, as you see, like Banaras Hindu University having around more than 30,000 people. So I have to send it to all 30,000 people. So in that case, mine was, it is an open-ended people, it was crossing even more than 10,000. So for that, it was a tailor-made thing. But again, as I mentioned, we had a computer department at a centralized level. So they helped me, they have created. So that tool I have used for the survey. But otherwise, it is an in-person only data was collected. It was purely a manually collected data.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. And ma'am, which method I have to use for your research methodology?
Sir?
Actually, your data is on physical, and you collect the data on as on Google or Excel sheet, and
Yes.
maximum data covered in your mapping. For which
Okay.
methodology you have to use for your research? Generally, actually, you use the mixed method, or which method you have to use for that research?
I didn't get a part of your question.
I think, is it mixed methods or like qual-quant that way?
Data collection was again mixed method only, and some of the campuses, they had readily available Excel sheets also. So I have used that. where I have not went for in a conventional, but I have used, but not every, hardly I think 10 to 20% I could get in that way. Otherwise, I used to take their the physical register, and then I used to maintain those records, and then I have used that kind of a data for the analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, ma'am. Thank you for a very exhaustive. I think discussion became even more exhaustive. But
Excuse
even
me,
within an
ma'am. And
hour,
how much period you have to complete your PhD?
Sir,
Or starting journey for which year and you completed this
sir, if you
journey
ask
shortly?
me, I have registered in July 2021, and so in December 2014, I have submitted my final report. Synopsis was completed and sent for an examiner. And so in 2015, May, I have completed the defense. So ideally, it is a 4 years on paper.
Same as per uh, my side, I am completed same pattern for. I am submitted my thesis on December 24, and my PhD defense on May 5th,
25. Okay.
28th May.
Great,
And
sir.
I'm get the admission in 21. And my
Nice, sir.
research topic is slum upgradation and urban governance and analytical research on Indian slum with reference to Solapur city, West Maharashtra. And my guide name is Dr. Gauri Desai. And co-guide is Smita Suryavanshi.
Okay.
And my university is Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University.
Okay.
And in this research journey, I have completed my 2 books. For one is Zhopadpattiche Bhavitavya, and another is Slum Half the Way Lives.
Okay. Okay. Great, sir. Great.
And you, ma'am, in your research, how much paper you have to publish for your coursework time?
Sir, as per IIT, that time, now it has changed. One international, one national, and then one journal publication of a repute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for disturb you.
no, it's good to have engaged participants, sir. All right. If I don't see any more questions, so I think we can wrap it up, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, ma'am, for a very insightful session. I think it's one of the most engaging sessions we have had so far. So thank you for that. Yeah, and all of you, let's meet again next time with a new topic and a new resource person. See you then.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm attending your seminars in last 1 year for supporting for my research journey.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I am collecting your mail and I'm paying the amount and attending the all time of your classes. And also I'm collect the mail for research paper publication for Vidya. Just you send a message for send mail for publication of your conference.
Yeah.
And I'm attending this. This is the last date for submission.
Yeah, sir. Yeah. We are doing a conference on Vastu Vidya Pratishthan. It's in collaboration with Calicut, and so that abstracts is open now.
Oh, yeah. Actually, ma'am, this conference is on site. Actually, you allow for hybrid mode, ma'am, because I'm a faculty visiting faculty in SS College of Architecture. For in this year, I am attending this, and in my 5th year class, near about 7 students is appear for this conference. But condition for they allow for on hybrid mode. Not possible for to come to Bangalore.
Sir, you send us a mail and we will discuss.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. And I'm also me and my guide also present this paper for your conference.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and please keep joining us for future sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.